Well, today we're looking at two very important pieces of Americana. First is the stone copy of the Declaration of Independence. We also have what is considered the first dated printing of Francis Scott Key's The Star-Spangled Banner. They form very key components of American identity. The Declaration gives the reasons why the colonies had decided to leave, whereas the Star-Spangled Banner marks the conclusion of that struggle. So now we're taking a closer look at this paper proof of William Stone's engraving of the Declaration of Independence. Here, as you can see, it's engraved by W.I. Stone for the Department of State by order, and on the right of J.Q. Adams, Secretary of State, July 4th, 1823. This is almost as bright as the day it was engraved by Stone. We've only learned about these proofs in the past couple of decades. One of the distinguishing marks he made was adding this little diagonal line, which does not exist in the original. It was a way to identify this as a copy of the official document. It took him about 3 years to produce this basically onto a copper plate. This stands as one of the first impressions ever made of the Declaration of Independence. Without this engraving, we would lose so much of the original document. This is the image that we all identify with the Declaration of Independence, but before the 1820s, this would not have been in the public imagination at all. Well, the other document which we have, which is the first dated printing of Francis Scott Key's The Star-Spangled Banner. This clipping appeared on page 2 of the 20th September 1814 edition of the Baltimore Patriot. It comes under its original title, The Defense of Fort McHenry. Francis Scott Key had been on a British warship negotiating a prisoner exchange. He was obliged to stay aboard the ship as it began its bombardment of Fort McHenry. Francis Scott Key, who had already written some of the verses aboard the ship, completed a final draft, and the song was quickly printed in handbill form and circulated around the city. And less than a week following the battle, the Baltimore Patriot began printing again, and one of the first things it printed was this song. The poem that he wrote was set to the tune of a popular British drinking song. This was found in a scrapbook collected sometime in the early to mid-19th century, filled with poetry and other memories. Something like this would have been very meaningful to its owner, and also demonstrates the popularity of the song, and also just how ephemeral these things were at the time. And it starts with a little introduction. The following beautiful and animated effusion, which is destined to long and outlast the occasion, and outlive the impulse which produced it. It's almost a prognostication, a prediction that this song would outlive its original circumstances, which it very much did.